do I do that?
What's going on, guys? It's Mohammed, the host of Aware Alpha, and welcome to episode 71, 72. It might be 73. We're not sure yet. Okay. And I just want to say how grateful I am, how thankful I feel for listeners, everyone listening to my voice, the things that I'm sharing. Crazy to think about it that almost, 12 months ago, like this was just an idea and there wasn't much content produced yet. It was just a desire and a vision that I had, that there was a message that I wanted to share with the world. And here we are today. And I'm super excited for today's episode. It's actually the first episode being recorded in 2022 for Aware Alpha. And I'm super, super excited for the guest that I have on the show here with us today. She goes by the name of Amian. She's a soul sister. She's an amazing woman in my life. She has done some great and amazing things to increase my own awareness, help me understand myself better and dive deeper within myself. And at the same time, she works with, many different men and women in her programs and the things that she does to help really just discover yourself better. Just to give you guys a little about her, she's an initiatrix. She's a tantric. I would say she's a goddess, and she's just a strong feminine energy. And you can tell this woman has done some work and has dove deep within her own self when you have a conversation with her. And it takes, I feel it takes a certain level of, energy to even have a beautiful conversation with this amazing woman. So with that being said, Amian, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Mohammed. It's great to be here and to be speaking with you.
Thank you. So one of the first things that comes to my mind right now as we're having this conversation is, how important do you think is self-love?
Well, I want to say it's the foundation of everything, and it's absolutely essential. But I think, for years and years of my life, I didn't realize how essential it was. And I didn't realize the effects that not knowing, the effects of my, what's the word I'm looking for? The effects of the not knowing, really, the ignorance around how central it was. Like I would hear that word and almost kind of be triggered for years. I'm just like, what do they mean? They're talking about masturbation, like, talking about like self-care, like what, doing a face mask and getting my hair done and nails done. I don't, like it didn't really make sense to me. I'd be like, yeah, I love myself. Like, sure. And it wasn't until I started diving deeper into myself and tantric work, shadow work, self-development, shamanism, things like that, that I started seeing how many layers of self-hatred that I lived in and that existed in my field, and how many sub-personalities I have that hate other sub-personalities of myself. So it's been a long and beautiful winding spiral path to more and more self-love.
Like for the listeners that are listening and they're like, no way, I thought the same thing, like self-love. Every time I heard about that, I thought it was like masturbation or playing with yourself or something sexual. So for those individuals, if they were to ask, what does self-love looks like for you? And like, what is it? What are some practices or what are certain things that you do that is, and would you consider self-love? And I bet as you answer this question, probably some of them won't even sound sexual at all, which will be amazing to increase that awareness that self-love is not a sexual act. It's just the act of honoring, respecting, and loving yourself, right?
Well, I think number one is actually listening to your yeses and listening to your nos. And that's been hard for me. I know it's hard for a lot of people in our modern culture because we are raised to not trust our yeses and nos. We're raised to listen to other people's this is right and this is wrong, and to adapt ourselves to keep the love from our parents, and from the community that sustains us and allows us to survive as we're kids growing up. And so we're taught to really suppress what our boundaries are. and what it is that what we know is true for us. And so I think that's number one in self-love, is starting to learn to listen. And if the signals are confused, because for me, sometimes they still are confused as to what voice is that coming from? What is my intuition actually saying? To actually start to listen to the body signals, because the body doesn't lie. And, if you are having a constriction response, a shutdown response, a response of something is feeling hard to breathe, that is a signal that something is misaligned for you, or something is not, the energy is getting stuck. And so something is not feeling true, or something is feeling unsafe, versus that expansive feeling we feel when our bellies can relax a bit and our chest can open more and our heart feels like it has space, and our lungs feel like they can take in more air. And our guts don't get tight and squeezy, that's a different kind of response. And to me, that feels more like a yes response. So that's like number one. I think a lot of us betray ourselves, even in little things in the day, thinking that, oh, if I make this decision, that's the right decision because this person's feelings aren't going to be hurt. I'm protecting this person. I'm protecting this relationship. I'm protecting my persona, my reputation, whatever. And actually you're doing that for others and for your ego, and not actually for being true to this inner alignment or alignment with your soul and your true self, So that's one thing. And then in terms of like practices to do, I mean, for myself, I've really been attuning my being to my natural feminine flows. So I use the word feminine for different things, but I'm a female identified person. I go with she and her, but I also carry a womb space. And
so guys, if you're listening to the podcast, it froze there for a second. We're just getting right back into it. And Amy, you were mentioning some of the practical things that one could do that would be considered self-love.
Yeah. So I was talking about how I identify as female, feminine, and I carry a womb space in the physical organ of a womb. And so I have these cycles, and I'm a cyclical being. And these cycles really, as I have come into more of myself and come into more of my body and my embodiment in this lifetime, I have discovered that there are certain times of the month that are better suited to yin practices. So really calming my energy down, really slowing down and coming into these still places of deep listening to myself and allowing for whatever emotions, stuck energies, stuck emotions from past trauma or wounds to come to the surface, to be felt fully and to move them, And so those are seasons of my cycle that I would call the luteal phase or the PMS phase, and the menstrual phase, the fall and winter of my inner year, my inner seasons. And this is monthly. And then I have a spring season and a summer season, and really honoring the energetics of those seasons, where my hormones are at, where my energy levels are at. And those are much more yang. So the spring season, the follicular phase, when my ovaries are preparing and ripening an egg, and my endometrium is ripening its lining or itself to potentially grow a fetus. This is the time where my hormones are the most balanced, and I'm in this really beautiful balanced state between masculine and feminine energies, and I feel more gregarious and outgoing and ready to do projects. And then my ovulation time is the most yang. That's the most like the big solar summer sun, a noonday sun, so much heat and life force energy and focused, penetrative, masculine type energy. And so really doing practices that honor each of those phases. So for example, in the fall and the winter, I will do a lot of self touch, and I'll do a lot of like breast massage, let's say. So I do tantric breast massage on myself, or I'll do full body oil massage, full body oil anointing. I will do a lot of like hip opening exercises and more yin yoga. And these things, I basically ask my body what it wants, and I will give it what it wants. And I won't force it to do something it's not wanting to do. And so I won't do vigorous exercise during that time. You know, there's maybe a spike in my progesterone just before my period where I feel energized to do some more like weightlifting or some more cardiovascular or something more heavy on the cardio. But I really try to listen to those flows. And then during the yang times, spring and summer, I have more energy to do more vigorous things and to push my body a little more. And if I do that, then my body actually has changed itself. So I no longer have cramps during PMS or during my menstrual time. I no longer have crazy, excessively heavy periods. These times of my cycle become really magic. Like they become my time to commune deeply with my feminine soul and my higher selves and the ancestors. And it's a very different way to live. So these are all practices of self-love for me, is this like deep listening to my body and its needs during these different phases of my cycle.
That's amazing. And I think, anyone that's listening to the podcast, it's the most important thing on this journey of self-love is to, first of all, just start paying attention and listening to your body, right? And for some of us, this could be a very hard practice, but like nothing, amazing is ever easy. So actually taking the time through meditation, journaling to pay attention, right? And eventually your body does start talking to you, starts telling you what it wants and what it doesn't want and all these things. And it sounds like you have done it so much that you're so in tune with all these different cycles of the moon, and you're one with the universe,
It feels more and more like that. Yeah.
I think that's amazing. Like a lot of men they want a female's presence, right? Like they want to make their woman feel seen, heard, understood, and all these things. But I feel and I see it more and more where not a lot of men actually know how to do that. And I find it upsetting in a way because these men do have the desire to do it. These men are not men that are just like, no, and like giving up or playing the victim or, just the average man. Like these are men that are like, they want to make their, woman feel seen, heard, understood. And they can tell like everything is going to get much better, much more passionate, and just everything will be beautiful because they have witnessed another relationship or another marriage where like it was just this deep union, and they're like, man, like I want that with my woman. But yet they're like, they don't know how to do it. They're like how do you make a woman feel heard, seen, understood? Like what? So I could obviously answer this question my own way, but like I'm curious to hear your thoughts on that. And also, how does a man who has a desire to make his woman feel heard, seen, understood, like, how does he go about that?
That's such a good question. I love that question. I'm just going to breathe into that for a minute.
Take your time.
Everyone listening and watching can also just take a deep breath into their belly space. And just do a body scan and feel what's happening in there. Feel where the tension is, feel where the lightness is, where any tingling is. See if you can relax where maybe you're holding some tension, perhaps in your anus, perhaps in your genitals. And just dropping in a little bit deeper into the body. Ooh. So how can a man make safe space for a woman is basically the question.
Yeah.
My first initial thought is do his work. like
Mm,
really go on the journey of self-love.
mm,
Because if a man, and so many men, I mean, so many humans, all of us have
mm,
so much ego, and we live by so much of the small self that
mm,
is out to, really protect itself. And
mhm,
it's there for survival.
yeah,
Um, but sometimes we get confused as to, we have these needs coming through, and we get
mhm,
confused as to where they're coming from.
mm,
And so I find that men often will, be coming from these spaces of ego-based needs.
mhm,
And that might actually be coming from places in them that aren't feeling loved,
mm,
and they're I can't even think of specific examples right now, but mm, the theme that I have come up against again and again is this theme of like a man not feeling good enough for a woman
mm,
necessarily, and like a woman asking for a little bit more, saying like, I'm not being met in these ways. And then the man taking that really personally and feeling like unworthy,
mm,
and then not able to measure up or live up. But it's also because, I mean, that's coming, in my opinion, from places in him where he has not been meeting himself,
mm,
and he does not feel worthy with his own self. And then when the woman comes with this reflection back to him, it can become very overwhelming, and then there can be shutdown and fights and all these different things because he's not owning his stuff and he's not meeting himself. um yeah, so
mm,
self-love is number one, and then she doesn't feel safe because he doesn't feel safe in his own being.
mm,
He doesn't feel safe with himself, so how can you make her feel safe?
mm,
And there's so many parts of himself that he's probably shaming. A
mm,
lot of it's unconscious. He's picked up shame from his ancestors, his family line, culture, et cetera, et cetera. And then he's got a really loud negative self-talk and negative, judgment on himself. And then if there's any of that reflected back in the woman, it's like devastation and
mm,
possibly blame shifting and possibly it's your fault and I can't, all
yeah.
that stuff. And so neither of them feel safe.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was thinking as you were talking that there was this saying I heard a long time ago, the outside world, like our outside world it's a reflection of our inner world. And so it's like when I think about the female, it's like she's simply a mirror, like what's coming up with your experience with her, like how you feel about her is a doorway about how you feel about yourself, right? So it's like, but then again, it's like, yeah, like how does, like I'm trying to think about how did I get here? Like there, like how to give like 3 steps for a man to, like this is how you make your woman, and then like I guess like you're right, like you do your own work, you start to cater to your own inner feminine, right?
Mm.
I think
And
that,
if you're doing it just for the woman outside you too, that's like making her your world and your purpose. That's not going to work either, usually,
mm,
like the true, like divine masculine energy, in my opinion, doesn't make the woman his world. He makes his purpose, his mission, his service, like his number one, that's his driving force. And
yeah,
that is actually also what like attracts the woman to him, and her main kind of driving force, this is all David data, but is love.
yeah,
Hers really is love. But if he makes love and that connection with her his number one, it kind of fucks with the
mm,
polarity. So
mm,
he's got to be like, really doing his work to find his soul alignment, to like really live into his purpose and his passion, his dharma, his
mm,
service. And then she'll be like, ooh, I will come alongside you. I'll give you this love. And that's going to fuel more of that. And then they
yeah,
can be in this beautiful dance. And then he'll also be inspired to give her that love that she's seeking,
mm,
and that also will make her feel safe too. If a man makes a woman his entire world, or this has happened to me in a long-term relationship where I became kind of his purpose,
mhm,
and that, like, I lost the attraction. I
mm,
lost, I lost that charge for this man, and I lost respect for him as
yeah,
well. And it's only now, after a few years of not being together, I feel like he's coming into more of himself and really discovering more of his purpose. And he's on his own journey, but it's I'm like, wow, that's sexy. Like, yeah, good for you. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Mhm.
It's so beautiful, everything you just shared. Like it really, like, it touched me. Like you're so right. And it's interesting because so the whole idea of purpose, right? It's so many men are out there like lost in the sense of like, how do I find my purpose? How do I find my passion? How do I find what I'm supposed to be doing while I'm out here on this planet? I would say my advice to those one is to continue trying and trying and trying different things in this world. Last 5 years, I've been to 18 different jobs, 8 different businesses, and I've traveled, hundred thousands of miles, not for the purpose of either manifesting my divine partner or finding my purpose. Actually, was to get wealthy. That's always been my desire since I was 11, 12 years old. And I have not resisted or put that down ever. Even when I've gone through my, what's the like where like I just didn't feel like money was anything, but I still like I've always stayed passionate and committed to like being wealthy in life. And that's a purpose, because I have felt that, like, I feel like what you mean by purpose is like a woman doesn't want to be the center of your world. Wants to see that you're well focused, like you have a world already that you're managing very properly and you're very dedicated and committed to it. And when she comes into your life and she, and you guys have this just beautiful connection, everything is amazing, and you're still fully focused on that mission. And even though like you're amazing, baby, you're the most beautiful thing that's ever happened to me, but even that is still not the center of my world. My center of my world is these goals and ambitions that I have, and I will be doing anything and everything to get there. So just so you know, in case you are against it, the door is there. That, no, you don't say that physically, but that's the energy you embody, that like, I am here for this, and I want a partner on this journey with me. And I'm gonna have a partner on this journey with me, whether it's you or anyone else, right? And these all sound like rough words, but no, this is energetically, you put that out there, like
get clear in your energy, and then that polarity dance that you're doing together, that will actually fuel more creativity, more energetic birthing for you to even fulfill more of your purpose. You'll have this drive and energy flow and desire to even go deeper in it. You'll have more energy to penetrate with, with a goddess by your side.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like right now, I have 2 questions. The one question is as if like the listeners were listening to the podcast, but the second question is more like a personal question for me, where I'm like, I am curious to hear your thoughts. So I'm gonna ask the personal questions because that's not that it's selfish, but I feel like it's still bringing value. So now a man who's on his purpose and is driven and has got like his things going on, and I feel like a lot of the Aware Alphas listening to, they do have their stuff going on. So like, how do I manifest that feminine goddess in my life at this stage?
Well, I really believe it starts within. As within, so without. And so it's really what we cultivate in our own inner landscape becomes our external landscape. We literally vibrationally are weaving our reality from inside to out.
So sorry to cut you off here. So do you mean in the sense of, for example, I do this exercise when I wake up in the mornings, and I do a lot of creative visualization where I think of a situation that I want to be my reality, and I sit here and I think as if that's already happened, and I'm like, oh my God, this is so good. For example, in the mornings when I'm laying in bed, right before I wake up, I do some gratitude, and then I actually sit there for like 5 minutes and I visualize as if my goddess is right laying next to me, and like what that would feel like when I wake up next to her, and how I cuddle her and I tell her how grateful I am for her. And then and it feels so good because like she's actually there. So what you're saying right now from within, is that what you're saying, to where I gotta deep down believe that she's already here?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's 100% part of it. It's a huge part of it. And I think also but learning, I think another big piece of it though, is learning that you have your own feminine within. And I mean, in some tantric traditions, it's the left side of your whole being is your feminine, the left side, the back side is considered feminine. A lot of traditions, like the whole back body. And then in terms of chakras or energy centers, your main feminine pole as a male-bodied person, male identified, is your heart. That's your feminine pole, and your masculine pole is your cock. This is like protruding, it's penetrative, it's like a pillar of light exuding from your body. It's the electric pole. Your heart, you don't have, like men, actually your physicality shows you that this is your negative pole, your receiving pole, because you have no breasts here, you know. This is flat, this is receiving. Same with women, like their genitals receiving. So you are, this is like really getting to know your feminine polarity, getting to know your heart, and knowing it as if it is your queen. Like, how do you treat your heart, you know, and its needs? Are you listening to it the way you would want to be treating a goddess embodied in the flesh beside you? Are you honoring your heart that way? Are you giving your heart like self-care days? Are you giving it yin time? Are you allowing for the rest and rejuvenation and reset? Even as a high performing alpha male, do you give yourself that balance? Because if you're not, it's going to be hard to attract a very conscious goddess kinds of woman, because she's looking for you to have cultivated that inner union with yourself already. You know, she doesn't want to have to be the one. I mean, that we're out here, we priestesses are out here doing that, helping men do that. But like for our king, we really want someone who's been doing that and who meets us at this level, you know?
That's so beautiful. Like, I'm so glad to just hear you say those things. And as you were saying those things, so maybe you could tell me if this is me embodying the feminine in me, being a very masculine driven man. So like Sundays and like even yesterday and even this morning. So like I literally have, like today as well, like I have 2 hours set up to where like everything is shut down, like in a sense of like the work and projects and everything. And I take a bath. I hug myself and I love myself. I got rose water. I spray it, you know,
yes, you did.
just to feel sexual. And I have eucalyptus and Epsom salt. And so like, wow. And like, as I'm listening to myself right now, I'm like, no way. Like that's exactly why. Like probably like a couple of weeks ago, I told one of my very good friends, like I told him like, I feel it. I feel like I'm gonna meet someone that I'm gonna spend a lot of time with this next decade. Like, and I don't ever say forever because I don't know, right? But I started feeling, I'm like, yo, like I actually feel like I'm about to meet a woman in my life that like it's just gonna change the game. And like I can feel like I'm meeting her. So as I've said that, and now when I think about this last few weeks and few months, like this self-love sessions have gone even next level for me. And when I say self-love, in the sense of like, I was taking myself out on dates, buying myself stuff, doing all these things. And then now that I think about the last few weeks of getting my own place and like taking baths, sitting there journaling, like buying rose water and buying things that I would be buying my goddess, right? And I'm already doing it, right? So it's like, and it just blows my mind right now. So I'm so glad that you just shared that, because I'm like, no way. That's why, like, I'm so close in the sense of like, I've probably already met her. We could already be conversating and communicating and getting to know each other and getting deeper within each other. There's a couple of females in my life that I am
connected to.
right? Like potentially, literally one of them could be, right? So
totally.
Right. So like, I don't even like, but I'm not like attached to that, right? I'm not like, oh, like I'm just embodying.
You're embodying it, and you're becoming the frequencies. So that phrase, like you're embodying what you're going to attract. You know, you are becoming your soul's mate, the mate to your soul. And then only when you become the mate to your soul do you attract that soulmate outside you, because you're actually holding the frequencies within, and then you're whole unto yourself, and you're not looking for someone else to complete you. You then just complement each other, and you mirror back to each other your wholeness.
That's so beautiful.
And the creative, sorry, I wanted to add too, like spending time in creation, playing with creativity, like whether that's creative writing or painting or dancing or expressing that is also letting your feminine out, letting her play, like being sensual with yourself. Like, oh my God, it's so beautiful. You're taking these baths and you're spraying rose water, like get some rose oil, massage yourself, or take yourself to go get a massage. Like, treat yourself the way you want to treat your queen. Honor those sensual feminine flows in your own being, that creative life force that's also a part of you,
No, it's so true. I got that already. No, like rose oil. Is that what it's called?
Rose oil. Yeah.
Rose oil,
I have a great one. I got a beautiful one made. Yeah.
You'll have to, so definitely, that's definitely on my list. And like,
you
were talking about the playing and everything. I'm like, like playing, like I have a ecstatic dance event here hosted in town where like, myself, I've been dancing and moving a lot. And like, I have, so I had like on the weekend, I had a inner child, like movie night. So I call it where like, just, mattress on the living room floor and just literally inner child express and play and all those things. Right. And I have another one coming in the next week where like I'm doing like an inner child ceremony / movie night. So it's like 7-8.
Just with yourself?
So this one was with a female, but I'm also planning with a couple of very close friends here in town where I'm calling it inner child movie night. So we're all going to come together, watch a movie together as if when we're expressing that part of ourselves. Right. But yeah, like, it's just so crazy right now as you answer those, is like, when I think about what my journey is like right now, I'm like, no way. So now Amanda listens to this and like, even though the old version of me would have been triggered listening to this conversation, because everything about this sounded very feminine, right? And it's just like a man doing this and it's very feminine.
A man's man,
right? And it's like, so I'm like, I want to put the focus and attention on you as we talk, but it's so interesting always like that I'm eager to share my journey and like just with the listeners, because like I come from a very masculine family, Middle Eastern and ambitious, driven, don't cry, don't express your emotions, just go after it all. And to where the last 15-20 years, I've gone through a massive journey of discovering myself, from getting arrested for trafficking at 15 to, starting different businesses, to just all weaving in and out through the physical world. And I believe that the most masculine men are the ones who are doing the work. So it's like, and myself, I feel more masculine, I feel more powerful, I feel more dominant the more I express and I get in touch with my feminine self. Like, I feel like it's just like, I feel more savage the more I, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like the animal in me is coming out more the more I'm expressing and getting in touch with my feminine. So it's like, so for me, it's like, I'm just like, it's like, I got the map to the treasure. Like, I'm going to keep doing this. Right. But it's like, I wish that more men had like understand this part of it. Right. But like, I get it though. You got to start with listening, paying attention to your feelings, start, using the triggers that you have within relationships and friendships and business partnership, and dig deeper within those triggers, right? Oh, you're jealous. Okay. But what? Look deeper within the jealousy. Oh, I don't feel good enough. I don't feel worthy enough. I feel like she does not love me. Like,
I'm afraid of abandonment. I'm afraid of rejection. Oh, this is drawing up a wound from when I was 3 and this happened with my mother. Like, all that stuff. Yeah.
Like, dig deeper within those things, journal those things, and
listen to those parts of you, because, and this is such a key teaching that's come from Teal Swan, is that, and from lots of different psychotherapies and things like that. But anytime we had a trauma growing up, anytime we've had a trauma, often our being will create these, it's like fragments of our soul, but like sub-personalities to try to survive. And so, if you experience a trauma where, your mom left and you got raised by your dad at 3 years old, that's massive. You're going to have a 3-year-old version of you in your being that's still in the corner, pulling his hair out, screaming, crying, kicking, punching, feeling absolutely devastated and the world is ending, kind of thing, and that being, that energetic is still in your being. And there are ways to actually presence that wounded part of you, that traumatized part of you, and bring that traumatized part of you into 2022 and say, hey, guess what? We're actually 38 years old now or whatever, and look around, we're safe, and I'm going to listen to you. I'm going to hold a pillow as I let myself feel like I'm holding my 3-year-old self and giving him the mothering he never got, surrounding him with love, just listening, not trying to change his pain, just listening and feeling his pain, letting myself emote, sound, breath, motion, moving these stuck energies, this stuck trauma that's been in my cells for so many decades, possibly, probably my ancestral generations as well, and it's playing out so that I can heal it and no longer pass this on to my future generations.
That's so powerful. Like, how important, like, not even important, like, it's so crazy. Like, most of us don't have enough self-love, or haven't done this self-love or discovered self-love, is because we're dealing with childhood trauma, right? And it's just crazy to me that, like, we live in a world where, like, childhood trauma is not emphasized on, like, it's not something that we talk about a lot. It's not something that's taught in schools. It's not, like, I feel like it's something that should be, taught in classes and all those things, right?
Absolutely. And also, that was an extreme version of childhood trauma I talked about, but even a parent telling you, like, don't cry, or suck it up, or like ignoring you when you really wanted their attention, those are traumas. They're not like, that really big, whatever, earth-shattering one, but it's still a trauma. And we tend to downplay those as well, because those also created these subpersonalities and these and emotions that usually are still stuck in our cells somewhere, and will get triggered from different situations that vibrate that out to us. So there's just so many, and it's like we can't really compare one person's trauma is worse than another, because it's all relative, and trauma affects us all differently, but it all affects us.
No, it's so true. It all affects us, right? What's your like, what the things that I'm going through right now, like this, the masculine and feminine energies, right? Like, can you describe what masculine and feminine energy is to you? Like, we talked about it a lot here on this podcast just now, on being in my feminine energy and being in my masculine energies and stuff. Describe what those are to you. Like, what is masculine energy and what is feminine energy?
Well, in the simplest terms, it could be said that they're like yin and yang from Eastern traditions. So, or like lunar and solar, electricity and magnetism, day and night, fire and water. So the masculine to me is more active and penetrative. It's a penetrative, like pillar of light or light beam energy, and it's focused, directed. It's electric. And then the feminine to me is more like a container. And it's more like flowing and watery and spiraling and receptive. It's like waiting to be filled, whereas the masculine fills, the feminine is waiting to be filled. And it's magnetic. It doesn't go out to grab things or penetrate with energy. It just radiates its magnetism, its beauty, its essence, just as it is, and things come. Things come to it to fill it up. And so every human being has both of these polarities and can play in and out of these polarities, and I would say, so like the masculine heart is the magnetic feminine pole, and the cock is the electric masculine pole. But then there's also the thought of like our emotions are seen, in so many different traditions, to be the water element and to be more feminine, and our minds, our logic, the brain, the mental capacities are considered more masculine, thoughts more masculine, and those two things are necessary for true manifestation, for soul aligned manifestation, right? Because the thought sends the signal out. So the masculine penetrative thought sends a signal out to the quantum field of something that you want, that imagine, like what you talked about, imagining, picturing your future self. And then, but it's the emotions that are the magnet, those elevated emotions of love, of gratitude, of joy and peace, delight, ecstasy that you want to feel when that manifestation comes to pass, that's the magnet that draws the situation to you, draws all of the pieces necessary to you at just the right time to weave that new reality. So you literally, when you practice those things of manifestation, you're doing both the masculine and feminine, and they're basically making love to each other in your being, you know? And so, yeah, the thought sends it out, the heart, the emotions draw the thing back to you. And then there's also like this pouring in of the masculine essence. And yeah, filling yourself up with that masculine pillar of light. And that also radiates from you in kinds of a beautiful combined way with the masculine and feminine, you know?
That's amazing. You know, how important it is, like, for a female, like, so let's say that we asked that question in a sense of how do you make your woman feel heard, seen, understood. So now let's say that man is doing all that, you know, but it's the female that's carrying, let's say, wounds and traumas and everything, and she's not able to really get into a space of trust. So how does, I guess it's the same thing for a man, like how do you get to a space of where you trust? Is it
sorry, where the man trusts the woman?
Or even like, well, we'll just talk about the woman here in this aspect. So like, how does a woman start trusting a man? You know, is there like a step to it? Is there like it's
yeah, you're
like,
looking for these steps. You're looking for these very masculine steps.
the masculine, okay, right? It's like, I'm trying to give these guys, you know, like this,
yeah,
but
some practical like, tools.
Yeah.
I wish I had, I feel like, yeah, this is me having to tune in again to try to distill my like cyclical feminine way. I think in circles. So, okay, let's try to get it linear, distilling it down. This is me practicing my masculine. So first and foremost, integrity. I would say that a man, the key to a woman's trust is that you are in integrity with yourself. And that doesn't mean you can't make mistakes, but like overall, your head, your heart, your cock, you know, you're all in integrity with yourself and with your soul and with your purpose. And you're not compromising yourself. You're not betraying yourself or your purpose. You're not being veered too far off the path.
Like I could say so much, but like that was the best answer ever. Like you're so right. It's, you know, like it's massive. And integrity is very simple, you know, it's just simply you're a man who does what he said he's going to do. And then he does it.
Yeah. Your words, your thoughts, your words, your actions, they all line up.
No, that's,
and I mean, you can, obviously we have different things going on, but it's like you make a commitment, you stick to it.
Wow, that's so good. Like that's so good. And like, and it's funny because like I'm gonna give the practicals here. So like, and like you listen to the podcast, it's like this is what it looks like. Like you want a woman to trust you, and you're like, okay, so, and Amy just said integrity, and now you're like, okay, what does that look like? So you tell her you're gonna call her at 5, you call her at 5. You say Friday night we're going to hang out, you make sure you show up on Friday night. On Wednesday, you make sure you confirm with her. You know, you say that you're going to do something for yourself. Like I'm going to hang out with the guys. You make sure you do it. So these are simple, these are like small practical things on how and what integrity looks like. Like you are simply a man who does what he said, because that process, what happens is every time you say what you're going to do and you do it, it's like a little block of trust that gets built. And the female in her head is like confirms, okay, oh, you end up doing that. Okay, you showed up to the date. It's slowly starting to build that, like, okay, this is who this person that they say they are. And they slowly start to drop their guard because they don't have to second guess anymore. It's like, this guy is who he says he is. And then like, that's how the female starts trusting you. That's so good. Like, you are on point today.
And then also, you know, being honest. Like, I think there's some men probably that are listening. They're like, shit, like, I don't know how to be in full integrity, possibly because they're afraid of being honest with themselves and others, you know? And so, but I would say the way I trust the masculine the most is even if he's going to say something that I might interpret as hurtful or I might feel hurt, he speaks his truth because it's his truth, and he's not trying to protect me or couch the truth from me or hide me from the truth to try to protect me, because that actually is a breaking of trust, I find. You know, like he needs to speak his truth, even if it's like, wow, it's going to be devastating for me to hear that, oh, he doesn't actually want to be with me that way, or he's not going to show up, or he can't do this thing that he said he was going to do because this other thing, he wasn't being truthful with himself, that he actually couldn't fulfill it. You know, he comes out and he says the truth, and it's like, wow, that sucks and I'm hurting, but like, oh, now I can trust this person even more. You know, or like, oh, I want to be in an open relationship, I've fallen for someone else and I also love you. Like, well, that's a really hard thing to say, but like, wow. Or like, I don't know if I can be in a monogamous relationship, I really like what we're exploring right now, but honestly, I don't know if I'm ready to be in a full committed thing. Like, okay, now I have all the pieces, now I can choose in an empowered state, what I want to keep showing up to meet this person, or do I want to say bye? But now I've got the truth, you know, and I trust this person and I want him in my life in some way, because goddamn, like that's a gem.
Yeah, that's so good. Like what you're sharing right now, like once again, like if you're listening to this podcast, and I want to share something that I went through in my early 20s, in the sense of like, when you meet a girl and like you got to pretend like you want to be, not pretend, like it's a lie actually. Like in my mind, I'm like, if I pretend like I want to be in a relationship, I can get in her pants. And then it's like, I get in her pants and I'm like, oh, I never wanted this. And then it breaks off. So it's like, that's like, and what I've experienced myself this last 3-4 years, it's like, I don't want to be monogamous. I think that we would have great chemistry, just a sexual experience. I just want to sleep with you. I just want to take you on dates, but I don't know where this is going to go. Like this stuff has taken me to, even like, if I was to say from a guy, like I've got laid way more being honest. Yes. I have had deeper relationships with females because of my honesty. So, and I get this asked a lot, in the sense of like, how do you like become honest? Like, how do you choose honesty when all these things are taken away? And something I'm just super grateful for. Like, I was just always this, just like honest kid from like age of 9. Like as long as I remember, I always told it like it is. And I hurt feelings, and I even hurt myself at times. And I even got probably, punched out by my brother or cousins, or like, but for as long as I remember, I was like, I told it like it is. And growing up now in this age, 31, and like, I would say the reason why I don't really say like it is because like just don't like to waste time. Like there's no reason to waste time. Like this is all we got. It's like, so why don't we just express what's really happening instead of like making something up, and like it just doesn't. So guys, as you're listening to the end, ladies, it's like honesty is so important. How do you build trust with the feminine or the masculine? I don't know if it's both the same, but
for sure it is.
It's the same.
And the truth sets you free. And this is, as I'm speaking this, like some medicine to me too, because I have been through so many years of struggle of like really owning my truth and learning how to actually speak the truth to myself. Because I get like these outside ideas of how I need to be in relationship. And then I think that's what I believe. I believe that I need to be monogamous. I believe that I have to do this thing. I believe it. But then all of a sudden I'm acting in this other way. And I'm like, what is this inner incongruency that's happening? What is this inner war happening? Oh, fuck, there's pieces of me that I am not looking at. There's shadow pieces that I am not actually owning or seeing or admitting to myself, or loving, pieces that I've rejected, pieces that I've condemned to the hell realms of my being, that are screaming to be looked at right now. And like, how many times have I been out of integrity with myself or my word, because I'm trying to like appease someone and save their feelings and try to really be this thing that I am actually not. Yeah,
that's so good. Oh man, I'm so grateful. Like I feel like this podcast, I should probably charge for this one. Like I don't know if I want to release it. I'm like, this is
well, that's why we're going to do a course.
Yeah, like this is like they're going to the private portal, guys. Oh man, that's amazing. And you guys just probably heard Amy say that's why we're going to do a course. There's actually something very interesting being brewed by me and her right now, which I'm looking forward to, and I'm excited to dive deeper within this. Okay, so the masculine is the provider and the protector, right? And of course, I'm very well aware that we live in a world, because there's so much pure, genuine masculine energy lacking. So many women have had to step up into their masculine, because like we don't have that many warriors left. And even I was actually Aubrey Marcus has this like ceremony or like retreat, and he was talking about how, you know, it's for single women and men, and where 50 single women come, 50 single men come, and him and his wife and everyone, they have like a 4 or 5 day retreat, and they talk about how to really manifest your desired partner, all these things. And then you could potentially end up meeting somebody, because there's 50 single men, 50 single women, like how often, like, so you could potentially end up meeting your desired partner in this 5 day whatever. And what he was saying is that, like, it's full, like so many women have already applied, only like 3-4 men. So it's like, it's a very great example of showing that there's not that many men committed to doing the work. And there's men like me that have made it a mission to increase self-awareness and self-compassion, all this stuff, to get more men to get in touch with them, right? So I guess what I'm trying to say right now is that I kind of lost my train of thought right now as I was even thinking about that. Like, I guess one of the things that I want to ask you in a sense, or even just share with you, is, so how do, like, there's not that many men that are doing the work, you know what I mean? They're not. And it's because, oh, the thought just came back. This is literally the story of my life, where a thought goes and a thought comes back and it comes right back. So the women are not feeling like, you know, like they're in their feminine, they're masculine, because they can't, like, there's all these,
they can't trust the masculine outside them to show up in that way.
Yeah, like, so it's like, how does a woman, like, it's that's something I'm working on, in the sense of, like, there's women that I meet that are just masculine guard is up so much, right? And within a couple of weeks, like, it's fully dropped. It's fully, like, we're just like, I've had some amazing sisters in my life where they're crying in my shoulder, and then they discover that there was all this stuff, and all that it took was a couple of weeks of us getting to know each other, and then just seeing that, like, this man has no intention of anything that I thought, and he's simply just committed to getting deep within a feminine. And then that guard drops down, and these women go from these, like, masculine, getting that lawyer, you know, nurse, start my own business, and, like, hasn't even felt her feminine energy in a long time, to where now she's crying in it, and she's, like, fully immersed in it, and it's like starting this massive transition, right? I guess, like, what I'm sharing this is, in a sense, is like how does that, is it something to do with the, like, is that the woman, that's the woman's job to do that work and stuff like that, right? But, like, how does a woman start to do that work without the masculine in it? Because it's like, as men, we're, like, masculine naturally. So for me to get into my feminine, it's very easy, actually, because I already know I'm masculine. So all I gotta do is, like, you know, find the path to get into the feminine. But deep down, I know at my core what I am. I know what my core energy is. But I guess, and I'm literally, like, having a moment as we talk, I guess a lot of men don't know that. They don't know their core energy. So they're scared to get into the feminine, because what if they find out that they're, like, gay, or they're, like, you know, whatever, which all the stuff is fully okay. So for a woman, I feel like it's very hard. Like, it's weird. It's almost like I have this mercy for women, you know, it's like, it's almost like
I mean, we've also been, it's not just men that have been told that feminine is lesser than, or, you know, like, so many derogatory terms come from female genitalia, or are about men who are feminized, or, like, you know, there's or men who are attracted to men, like, so many terms that we use flippantly, or, like, to put people down, have to do with the feminine things. And which is hilarious, because, you know, we all come from the feminine void. That's where everything is birthing from every moment. And so many religions have lost the goddess lineages of the goddess aspect of their original expressions, but many people are waking back up to the need for both, and that the divine union between both. But to your question around, how does a woman create that masculine space for herself so that she can actually go into her feminine flows? I mean, I used to be over masculinized as well, and actually had a lot of androgen hormones imbalanced in my body, caused a lot of hair loss. I was anorexic as a teenager and went super controlling for years over my food, and got really ill and lost a lot of hair. I have to wear extensions now because of that. But, you know, for years I had this imbalance of female and masculine hormones. And then I started doing work with shamans, and work with women's circles, and, like, work with nature education and medicine wheel teachings, and these traditional ways of being with the earth, and being with cycles, and being with my feminine body, and then feminine embodiment work and priestess work. And my hormones have literally shifted. Like they've literally changed so that they're completely balanced now. And I have healthy, beautiful female hormones, and my masculine hormones are in check and like really at the low end of the spectrum. They went from extremely way over high to like really low. And so it was really me participating with sisters. I think that's such a huge piece for women to come together in circles together again, and to connect in with their ancient body gnosis, their ancient feminine ancestral wisdom that is literally lying dormant in our cells. And when we come together with other women, it starts turning on. And so I can't recommend enough going to women's circles, going to red tents, going to moon circles, going to women's retreats. All of these things are what allowed me, what actually taught me that it was safe to be feminine again and to be in my feminine flows, and that you could actually have a healthy and abundant life being in your feminine and not being in your masculine 24/7. And so that path is what I've been on for the last number of years. And that it brought me to this place. And for years, I was like, where are the woke men? Where are the conscious men? I feel like I'm the initiatrix of all these men in my life who are at very much lower evolved states, like consciously than me. And I'm like pulling them up, to come up to try to like come meet me here. And then they come in and they go, and they got to go on their own journeys. And it's amazing how many of them are waking up to all these new beautiful levels, but none of them have been able to come and be my mate. And it's only been in the last year or so that I'm attracting or finding men that are doing the work more. And, recently the men in my life are like, the caliber has just like you were saying about the women in your life earlier before this call, you were saying like, wow, the goddess, like the level of goddesses that are coming in, the level of integrity and embodiment and like, divinity in your life through these women is unsurpassed. And it's happening with, I'm seeing men that are actually doing the work now as well. And that's really exciting, but it's like, I had to do it for myself first. I had to be okay with my feminine and have my sister go on this journey with my sisters for a long time before I started seeing the men come to like be the protector and provider of this sacred feminine that I am now embodying so fully. And I had to learn how to like create that masculine container for myself as well, and like space hold for myself and hold the pillar and all these things. I'm still trying to anchor my divine masculine. It's it's a thing for me. It's much easier for me to be in my feminine. But
no, that's awesome. And that's amazing that like what your core energy is and what you enjoy the most. So it's like, and you're embodying that more, right? So I think
I feel healthiest when I do that. I feel most lit up. My body feels the most balanced and all the things. And one last thing, I know we talked about for men, just the prior question that you had asked about what are the things men can do to help a woman feel safe. So just to go over them again, we said the first thing was integrity. The second thing is honesty. And I want to add that I would say the third thing, and these are all interchangeable really, but is presence. Like dropped in, like undivided attention and presence when it's time to be with the feminine. You're not on your phone, you're not playing video games, there's times for that for sure. But like, even if you're with a woman and you're like, okay, I have a business call coming in, you say to her, I need a few minutes to take this business call. I'm going to be right back with you after this. Like how many men just like go on, like unconsciously go on their phone when they're like with a woman, like what? That is not, I used to hang out with guys that did that. And I'm like, where was I with my self-love journey that I allowed for that in my presence? I'm sorry. No.
That's so good. That's so true. And like presence and is what you just shared, and like it is so simple yet so complicated, and which is kind of just a reflection of the man's inner world, right? So because once you really, I guess, be present with yourself and with your own feminine, with your own inner child, and spend all this time, it's like it's actually a pleasure to be present with a female. to be able to.
But if you haven't done that, then it feels like work, and it feels difficult and feels triggering and feels like, get me out of here. I want to numb out. I want some distraction because this is overwhelming. And so that's a huge indication for women as well as to where you're at on your self individualization and self soul journey. Is how present you can be to her, shows her how present you have been to yourself.
No, it's so good. I'm like, this has been one of the best podcasts ever. And I'm like, I got 50 of them scheduled for this year. And I'm like, are these all going to go this amazing? Cause like, this is so
next level.
I love it. You know,
the Master Builder year, 2022. Also the special number of the High Priestess, Mary Magdalene.
I like it. I love the awareness and the knowledge that you have on a lot of these topics, which is, I think it's amazing. And one of the things, like, I'm just going through my head right now, I'm like, it's almost like, I don't know, like with the podcast, it's almost like there's like men that haven't done the work and then men that have done the work. And it's like the thought that's going through my head is like, how do I do the podcast where like, am I talking to the men that are, you know, have done some of the work, or am I talking to men that are like, I have no idea? And like, you know, because it's like, I'm sure I have, and I like listeners from all different perspectives, right? So it's interesting for me. I'm like, am I doing this for
I feel
me?
like it's both. I feel like it's men on all stages of their journey, because even a man who's highly advanced in these things, I think it would be helpful for him to hear this and then be like, wow, look how far I've come. And like feel that he is resonating, or maybe it would click in some missing pieces, or for like, even in our conversation, you being like, holy shit, I've been presencing my feminine. I've been embodying my feminine. That's why these goddesses are showing up, like the aha moments. And then I feel like for beginners, it's like, even though some of the concepts might be over their heads, they're still getting the vibrational entrainment. They're still, and it's like, I believe I can feel it, like causing this, it's almost like, it's like you can smell the dinner before you're tasting it. Your taste buds start getting lit up, your mouth starts watering, you know, and you're like, oh, I'm hungry for something. What are they talking about? I don't know, but I'm hungry for it. You know, something smells really good here.
No, let your curiosity build. And I just want to say, like, you know, I feel like we could go for hours and hours. I just want to say thank you so much for this. And yeah, like I learned so much. I had so many realizations, and just I had so many moments. Like I'm in awe myself right now, and I'm like, am I doing a podcast interview, or was this personally for me? Like what happened here? Like I'm in a different world.
Something that I want to add though, there is that something I've really discovered is that on this journey, you know, as light workers, we're helping others discover their light and their truth, but like, it's always the most pure and authentic when we're doing it for us. If we're honest, that really like you're doing this podcast for yourself. And then it's like a bonus. It's in the overflow of that self-love, in the overflow that people are being blessed by it, you know? And it's the same thing with singing. You know, I sing in ceremony and ritual and initiations, and I sing sound codes, like heavenly tunes that come through sometimes, all these things. And as soon as I think that I'm singing for someone else, or like have to show off in some way or make it something, if it's for someone else, it's not as pure. Like the codes don't come through as purely. But if I remember that I am singing for myself and my healing, this is a song for me, then my vocal cords open up, you know. That's for all of us to remember.
No, that's good. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing. Please let everyone know where they can find you on social media, wherever they want to connect with you.
Yeah. So right now you can find me on Instagram at _Amy Ann, AMYANN. And you can find me on my website at www.god-dess, so goddess with a dash in the middle, because masculine, feminine, .ca. So god-des.ca. Yeah.
Awesome. So everyone, I will have those details. I will have it in a detail section of the podcast, and I'm excited to release this episode. Will probably be released the second week of February. And lastly, I just want to put some intentions out there, that my intentions for you listening to this podcast and giving an hour of your time to this is that I hope you don't only just take this for entertainment. I know me and Amy and I have beautiful voices, I hope that you actually take some information from this and start implementing it in your day-to-day life. Pick something from it. The idea of being present, listening to a woman, listening to yourself, integrity, and how to build integrity, how to, start small little tasks on your day-to-day basis and start to finish those tasks and feel the process of building integrity within yourself, self-confidence within yourself, feeling your self-esteem increase during this process. So my intentions are for you to dive deep within this stuff and truly learn from this stuff, because like I'm telling you, there's literally coaches, gurus, people out there that is not against those guys. They're doing it and they are charging thousands of dollars for this type of information. And you just got this all in 1 hour podcast. So my intentions are for you to take this information, implement it in your day-to-day life, and see the changes and the magical things that start to unfold in your life. And with that being said, until next time, stay an aware alpha.